We wanted to talk a little bit about a headline I'm sure you must have seen in the news because it's a big one at Mars, not through a telescope, but from a spacecraft that's at Mars called Mars Express. It's a European orbiter around Mars, and it has an instrument on it that is actually part NASA, part European Space Agency, that does radar sounding. And what they found is groundbreaking. We've been looking for liquid water on Mars for a long, long, long time. And we know that there's water in the caps. We know that there's water in ice form under the surface. But we have not yet been able to find liquid water. So this new result is an interpretation of data that suggests that indeed there may be liquid water lake under the surface of Mars. If that's the case, that's really cool. The reason we care so much about liquid water, and I'm sure you're going to talk about this at length, is because liquid water is absolutely essential for life. You can't have life if you don't have liquid water, at least here on Earth. And you need some kind of liquid, and liquid water has a lot of amazing properties that make it just an essential ingredient for life. So we believe that if we're going to look for life as we know it, and we can always talk about life as we don't know it a little bit later this evening if you like, but if we're going to look for life as we know it, then we need to find a place where there is liquid water, and that's what makes this so important. So the spacecraft sent down radar or radio pulses, and then they echo back. And as this little diagram tries to explain, they change depending on what they hit. They penetrate through the surface. It went through about 1.5 kilometers deep and gave a bright signature that people think could be a sign of liquid water. Here are the data. I'm sure you're looking at this and saying, oh yes, I see the liquid water. But this is the surface of Mars, so there's one reflection, because of course the radar just bounces right back. But then that which doesn't bounce back penetrates through and bounces back more when it hits a change from water to rock, ice to rock, or rock to water, ice to water. And in fact, the brightest reflections are associated with reflections to water. So that is what we're seeing, what they're seeing. Now these data were taken from 2012 to 2015. But there was an automatic software program that was averaging pixels and kind of working with the data and delivering a semi-reduced data set, and that was obscuring this. So they went back and they said, let's take a look at the raw data. And when they looked at the raw, unprocessed, that hadn't gone through this sort of, average pixel averaging program, this is what they saw. Now what's exciting about it is that they saw it in several passes. Each one of these streaks represents a different flight of Mars Express over Mars, taking those measurements. So you can see that at this brightest spot here, there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, there are several different independent measurements that all showed the same bright reflection signature. So their interpretation is, the best explanation, and the brightness of it, they could do a numerical, they did some calculations trying to simulate, could it be anything else other than water? And their simulations and their conclusion was, no, it's probably liquid water. So that's a very exciting thing. Here on Earth, we also see subsurface lakes under the ice in Antarctica. This is a little picture of a lake, little diagram showing that we've drilled down almost all the way to Lake Vostok and a couple other places in Antarctica. But we like this one a little bit better. But the reason this is kind of super exciting is that in Lake Vostok and in the ice just adjacent to it, we have found creatures that live in freezing temperatures. The water is kept liquid because of the pressure and because of the salts, like using antifreeze. And so it's still liquid even though it's below freezing, and there are creatures that live down there. Now the conditions on Mars are more extreme, saltier and colder, but still it's very tantalizing to the idea that there could be life on Mars. So I'm going to begin, David, by asking you, what do you think of that? Do you think it's real?
I think it's real, but I'll go, I think it's probably real. I would like a little bit more information, but it looks very certain. And what I would caution everybody to recognize is that we have not discovered life on Mars, but this is an incredibly important discovery, because if I were designing a mission to Mars now, I would want to design a mission that could drill a core to sample the water in that subsurface lake, because it is certainly one of the best possible places to search for life on Mars.
So, and there are discussions about instruments on future missions that can go verify this and look at other frequencies and try to get additional information about it. So, yeah, I'm surprised to hear you say that you would go right on in and drill. I was
Well,
wondering
we'll
what
talk
you were
about
going to
that.
say about that. All
I
right.
said if I were
Get the
designing a
drills.
mission to do that.
Get Bruce Willis and a few drills and let's go.